Hey, you guys, Jesus says there's one sin that cannot be forgiven, the unforgivable sin, and that is to grieve the Holy Spirit. You know, there are a lot of Christians who stay up at night, worried that they may have committed this unforgivable sin. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there is a key to the unforgivable sin, and it is mentioned in the Old Testament about 1,500 years before Jesus even said a word about it. And once you see it, you will never look at that verse the same way again. So here's what Jesus actually said. This was in Mark chapter 3. He said, "Whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. They are guilty of an eternal sin." And that sounds scary. But watch what's happening in the scene. Jesus is casting out demons. People are watching the Spirit of God moving with their own eyes. And the Pharisees, instead of falling on their faces and worshiping the Lord, they look at the Spirit's work and they say, Jesus is doing this by the prince of demons. So they are looking at God's Spirit and calling him the devil. And that is when Jesus says that famous line. The Greek word for blasphemy here is blasphemia. And it doesn't just mean saying something bad. It means to slander, to defame publicly and deliberately, to look at something that is holy and declare it evil. The Pharisees were doing exactly what Isaiah warned about 700 years earlier. He said, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness." They're completely upside down. Here's where it gets really amazing. I want you guys to look at Leviticus. In that book, you will find sin offering after sin offering. You will see bulls and goats and lambs and doves, but almost every sin offering in Leviticus is for sins committed unintentionally. Sin you didn't realize, or even sin of weakness. For all of that, God provided atonement. But then Numbers 15:30 says, anyone who sins defiantly blasphemes the Lord and must be cut off. No bull, no goat, nothing covers it. The Hebrew phrase there is Beyad Rama, with a high hand of defiance, a raised fist against God. So the Israelite who broke the Sabbath by accident, that's forgivable. The Israelite who broke it in a moment of weakness and grieved over it, that's forgivable. It's like David or Peter. But the Israelite who looked at God's law and said, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway, and I'll do it again tomorrow, that is outside the covenant. That's Lamech in Genesis chapter 4, boasting about murder, mocking God's mercy, a raised fist with a smirk on his face. That is the difference between forgivable and unforgivable. And it is not about whether or not you sinned. It was about whether or not you were sorry, or if you were proud of it. And look at the word unforgivable. It doesn't mean God is unable to forgive, because God's forgiveness is infinite. It means the person has become unable and unwilling and uncaring to receive that forgiveness. Forgiveness requires reception, right? So if you have spent your life calling the Spirit's work demonic, you have shut the very channel that forgiveness flows through. And here is the deepest part of all. The person who has actually committed the unforgivable sin, guess what? That person doesn't even care about forgiveness, doesn't want forgiveness. They don't lie awake at night worried about it. They don't grieve. So if you're worried, that worry, my friend, is the proof that you're okay. If your heart is aching right now, that ache is still the Holy Spirit calling you home. You have not committed the unforgivable sin. You've been tormented by a lie, and today, that lie ends. Because Jesus said in John chapter 6 that whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. Never. The fact that you care is the answer. God bless you guys.